In the Pokemon community, there is a very common challenge run known as the Nuzlocke. There are two main rules at the heart of this challenge. Number 1, you can only catch the first Pokemon encountered on a new route. And number 2, if one of your Pokemon is knocked out, it must be permanently removed from the party. For all intents and purposes, that Pokemon is gone forever. There are usually a whole bunch of other rules applied to a Nuzlocke challenge as well, but those two are the most important ones. It can be a pretty fun challenge, as it forces you to pay more attention to what's going on, instead of just brute forcing your way through the game. And let's face it, most Pokemon games are notorious for being way too easy, so making them a little harder isn't a bad thing. But while this challenge integrates quite well into Pokemon games, seeing as it was, well, designed for them, I was curious. Could this be done in other games as well? Specifically, could it be done in an old Digimon game? Cause you know me, I do enjoy the classics more than the modern stuff. But as I looked into it, I realized that things could get pretty complicated. Let's consider Digimon World 1. I have no idea how you could do a Nuzlocke in there in a fun way. I mean, the Digimon already do pass away permanently after getting knocked out 3 times. So it is kind of already a Nuzlocke, sort of. And you never catch any Digimon in this game, so that rule doesn't work either. It might be a bit more doable in Digimon World 3, but even then, I don't think it would be a whole lot of fun. At best, I think you could lose Digivolutions if they get knocked out. I don't know, but you can't catch any new Digimon, so again, we would be missing out on a core element of the challenge. As far as I'm concerned, for a Nuzlocke to be truly fun, the game must allow you to catch Digimon. And when it comes to the classics, I could only think of one game where that can be kinda done. The game with which I started my entire Digimon journey on this channel. The disturbing entity known as Digimon World 2. But to make things a bit more interesting, I decided not to play the original Digimon World 2. A whole lot of people have asked for it, so I thought it was finally time to play the World 2 Alternative mod, which brings a massive overhaul of the entire game. The story, domains, wild enemies and Digivolutions, everything has been spiced up. There are even some new, never-before-seen Digimon in here, and some that were lost before, but have finally been recovered. I have not played it before, but I have heard that it is pretty dang hard, compared to the original anyway. I've never attempted a challenge like this before either, and to be fair, as far as I can tell, nobody has ever tried to do a challenge like this for Digimon World 2 at all. We are kinda making history here when you think about it. So can I beat the alternative mod of Digimon World 2 with the Nuzlocke challenge? I hope you've got your snacks and about 34 liters of Pepsi ready, because it is time for us to find out. Okay, so let's talk about the rules. Digimon World 2 is a very different beast compared to a standard Pokemon game, so we'll have to make some adjustments to a normal Nuzlocke rule set. Some of the major rules will remain the same. If a Digimon is knocked out in a battle, it is gone for good. But for those who don't know, in World 2, all Digimon hit a level cap after a while. The only way to make them stronger after that is to DNA Digivolve them with another Digimon. So we're often gonna go from 2 Digimon to 1 just as we play the game. For that reason, I decided that a knocked out Digimon can still be used as Digivolution fodder. In my mind, I like to think about this as me throwing the lifeless carcass of a fallen friend into a Digivolution, so that we may carry on their memory within a new creation. That sounds kinda sweet to me, in a morbid way. The next rule. We can only attempt to capture the first Digimon we run into on a floor we've never been to before. You might think that this is a very generous rule for me, as it may allow me to catch a whole bunch of Digimon per domain. But trust me, you'll see that this does not make things a whole lot easier. On any given floor, we may not even get a chance to catch a Digimon at all, depending on the layout. And the layout of most domains can be pretty unforgiving in this regard. You will see soon enough, don't worry. But beyond that, the rest of the rule set is pretty standard affair. We'll nickname each and every Digimon, as they are all our friends, even if some of them may turn out to be better, stronger friends than others. And to make sure that I don't end up relying completely on items to make progress, I will be limited to a maximum of 5 items per battle. I thought that was pretty fair. Well, with all that out of the way, it's time to begin our journey. The alternative mod starts things off pretty similarly to the base game, where we have to go on one final tutorial mission before the game will really begin. So we'll have to go through this first before the Nuzlocke can get underway. We can immediately see some major aesthetic changes already. Instead of boot domain, we are going to initial cave. It is pretty cool to see just how much has changed here. There appear to be some secrets in this domain as well, as there is a blocked off area which we can't access yet. I like it. The first boss of this mod is Digimon. It's a relatively easy fight, but one that allows us to see a few more cool changes that the mod has made. The move descriptions now show a lot more information than before, which is nice to see. After the battle, we have now become official tamers, and we are free to choose our guard team. This challenge run was done during my live streams, so I let the chat decide which team we should join. The Black Sword team won the poll, which meant we will be raising some virus-type Digimon to begin with. As our first partner, we were given a Gizamon. I was expecting a Demi-Devimon, but I guess the game wanted to throw a curveball my way right off the bat. In any case, the chat and I decided to give our new partner the beautiful name of Ugly Sonic. Because, yes, our first mission was to defeat the boss of Basic Beach. Basic Beach. Something seems off about that name. The first wild enemy that we come across for this run is a Candlemon. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that early on in the game, you can only catch Digimon of the same type as your guard team. So for us, that would be virus-type Digimon. In this mod, we do start the game with a couple of items that can help us catch other types, but I didn't feel like using them on a Candlemon. This would, however, turn out to be a mistake, but we'll get to that in a moment. Because first, I need you to check out something very important. For you see, when we win a battle, our ugly Sonic does, this. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the legs to do that. The nickname seems to be a good fit, I'd say. As I get to the second floor, you can see why things can be a problem when it comes to catching Digimon. This Candlemon is in a very small room, and as soon as I enter the room, it will initiate a battle immediately, giving me no opportunity to throw gifts at it, which is a requirement before I can catch anything in this game. Now, I can't catch anything on the second floor either. Fantastic. Moving on to the third floor then, I was kinda hoping I would finally be able to catch a new Digimon, but the game had other ideas. Again, small room, no space for me to throw any gifts. You can see why I had to go with a first encounter per floor instead of per domain, right? The next floor is the boss floor, but I was still hopeful. Oftentimes, there are wild enemies on boss floors as well, after all. And there was a wild encounter waiting for me here, but the game wasn't done trolling me just yet. As this was the last floor I could go to in Basic Beach, this pretty much meant I would have to take on the boss with only Ugly Sonic in my party. You might be wondering, what about the initial cave, editor man? Couldn't you get something there? Well, I had the same idea. But you see, the first encounter in initial cave is against a level 5 Tapermon. I only had enough space between it and myself to be able to throw one gift at it. And I did give it a shot, but Tapermon here had no intention of being friends with me. I couldn't comprehend why that was the case. As far as I can remember, we've always treated Tapermon with the utmost respect on this channel. Even going deeper into the cave didn't really help, as there was no room to throw gifts at anyone. So I did what any reasonable person would do, and got to grinding. It took a while, but I was able to get our ugly boy to level 7. At which point, I felt somewhat comfortable about taking on the first boss, who turns out to be a Penguinmon. At first, I was kinda concerned, as Penguinmon was a vaccine-type Digimon, who, in case you don't know, have a natural advantage over virus-type Digimon. But my concerns went away pretty quickly, as I realized that Penguinmon was pretty weak. Our ugly Sonic, even with the type disadvantage, was doing more damage to the penguin than it was doing to us. It's not a very complicated battle, as both Digimon only have one move to work with. It's kinda like two Pokemon tackling each other until one stops moving. And here, that's what happens to Penguinmon, after a short fight. Our first win of the Nuzlocke, Ugly Sonic proving that he can handle his business on his own if needed. Look at them legs go. Oh yeah! Afterwards, we go back to HQ to talk to our leader, Scumbag Skull. He appreciates our work and tells us about the next domains we need to clear up. While trying to leave, we run into the iconic rival of Digimon World 2, Bertrand. In the original game, Bertrand had the tendency to be a complete moron. Has that changed in this mod? We'll find out soon enough. This mod has changed up the in-game trades available to us as well. Traded Digimon tend to have extra moves, so it's always a good idea to get them if possible. But with the Nuzlocke rules, it may not be possible for me to get the required Digimon for the trades, most of the time anyway. Also, Chris Connors gives us a DNA up chip. While I do appreciate that, as that item tends to be quite rare in this game, I would have rather preferred a toy plane. Like, I could really use some of them right now. Well anyway, it was time to head to our next destination. Maybe we'll be able to catch something cool in the UEFI uplands and finally have a teammate for ugly Sonic. Really? Really, game? Never mind that. Maybe I'll have better luck on the second floor and good lord. Do they all have to be literally one step away from me? Well, at the very least, Betamon here was a virus type. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. So I threw a gift at it and got a medium heart. That's not a guarantee, but that's all we got. So after beating the diddly out of Betamon, it was time to ask its unconscious body an important question. Will you be our friend? Maybe it was luck, or maybe it was Ugly Sonic's friendship dance that did it, but Betamon decided to join our party. Huzzah! Finally, a new friend! I decided to name it Totally Beta, because it may not definitely be awesome, but it was totally beta. But of course, the poor thing had to get some much needed EXP before it could help us. So I took some time to beat up some wild enemies and level it up. But there was still an empty slot in the party, so I went to check out the PCI Preserve. And on the first floor, I ran into another Betamon, with plenty of space in the room for me to launch gifts at it. After a thorough beating, this Betamon also realized that it wanted to be our friend. Say hello to Beepus Boy, everyone! We finally got our first full squad. I like to call this team the Totally Ugly Boys. Might have to work on a better name. But I still wanted to get as many friends as I could, because soon I will have to start DNA Digivolving, and I would need the extra friends to make that happen. On the 5th floor of the uplands, and yes, that means I couldn't catch anything on any of the other floors, I ran into one more Betamon, but this one was a bit different because it ran away from me as I got close. And not only that, there was a Modoki Betamon with the normal one. When a wild enemy group has multiple types of Digimon within the group, only the toy gifts will work on them, which I found out the hard way. Fortunately, I did have a couple of toys on me, which allowed me to get a big heart. Very nice. Instead of catching my third regular Betamon, I thought it would make more sense to catch the Modoki Shiny Betamon instead. And while I was trying to think of a good name for it, I accidentally left the name as N, with a lot of spaces before it. It seemed like destiny, so I thought I'd leave it this way. In this mod, it is possible to change the name of a Digimon. It's something you couldn't do in the base game, and it's an addition which I do appreciate. While getting ready for the next boss, Ugly Sonic was able to get to level 11, which meant that it was ready to Digivolve. And our partner Digivolved into Tuskmon. Not bad. Still ugly though. It was time to clean up the uplands. On the 5th floor, we found a Gabumon. A strange choice for a boss Digimon, I felt, but alright. Gabumon had very little in terms of backup though. I felt like we were a bit too over-prepared for this. But it's way better than getting a nasty surprise and being wiped out, right? This battle is quite easy. Neither Gabumon or Dakunimon can do much at all before our friends wipe the floor with them. A quick and easy fight, and I don't mind that. Gabumon leaves a dynamo part behind, which I decided to take with me as a trophy. It might come in handy later. And after some more grinding, Totally Beta was ready to Digivolve too. And our beta friend Digivolves into Airdramon. Not the most exciting Digivolution, but here's something interesting. I can't use Airdramon in a DNA Digivolution right now, even if I wanted to, as Airdramon is a vaccine type. And I can't use vaccine-type Digimon in DNA Digivolutions, as I'm a member of the Black Swords team. DNA Digivolution can be a bit wonky early on in this mod. You see, the mod creator has made a lot of changes to Digivolutions, and we don't get what we would usually get in World 2. This restriction only affects me until I open up Device Dome, but it is still a bit annoying, I would say. Alright then, with that done, we made our way to the 5th floor of PCI Preserve, where we ran into Greymon. You may remember the pervert Greymon boss from the base game, and he is still pretty shady here. He's bought a nifty looking team with him though, a black Agumon and a Weemon? Nice! Although Weemon turned out to be very flimsy, as N was able to knock it out in one shot, right off the bat. I gotta say, N seemed special to me. He's got a very unique vibe to him. There appears to be more to him than what meets the eye. Anyway, Greymon and his minions really couldn't put up much of a fight. Black Agumon does look cool, but the coolness factor was all that it had going for it, as Ugly Sonic knocked it out pretty quickly. Still, N got to have the last word, as he electrified Greymon with a big shock to the system. It's time for this pervert Greymon to rest. Forever. Another couple of butts kicked by the totally ugly boys. After the battle, we find a very beta Angemon cowering away in a corner, hiding from that Greymon. Pretty pathetic, I'd say. Since N was so close to digivolving, I figured it was a good idea to grind till he gets to level 11. I was curious what N would digivolve into. This was a very special Digimon, so it would only make sense if the Digivolution itself was pretty special too. Our best friend found a way to come and help us in Digimon World 2 too. The accidental name turned out to be a prophecy, it seems. McLean was here to lead the way to victory once again. Before moving forward, I had a little chat with Angemon, mostly to collect my reward for saving him. 2000 bits isn't a lot, but you know what they say, every little bit helps. Next, Mark at the Tamers Club tells us about an unexplored domain. He wants us to go and check it out, and in exchange, he gives us one of the greatest gifts a man can ever receive, a toy plane. With this, we can catch pretty much anything, but it'll be a while before we can buy these, so I'm gonna try to make it count. Before heading to Mark's domain, I decided to pay a visit to Initial Cave again. Remember the barrier which was blocking off a section of the domain? I thought it would be fun to finally take a look and see what was going on over there. Well, it turns out that there was an entire domain hiding within Initial Cave. It's another major addition that this mod has made. Certain domains have blocked off areas which may potentially contain special things if one takes the time to explore them. I spent a while looking around in here, but I couldn't find anything interesting or any new friends to catch, so I decided to take a deeper look later on. FSB Field, the domain Mark was talking about, is our next destination. And immediately, I found yet another Betamon hanging around. Considering that my friends were close to their respective level caps, I decided to catch this one too. Really, my party is turning into some kind of Betamon sanctuary. On the next floor, I finally found something other than a Betamon, which I had a chance to catch. I was okay with getting either one, but the livestream chat decided that I should catch Gazimon. Just as everything was going according to plan, I realized something important. I forgot to make sure that I still had space in my Digibeetle. And so, my new friend was snatched away from me before I had a chance to even get to know them. But thankfully, the universe decided to give me a break. After going back and making space in my Digibeetle, I had the opportunity to catch a Gazimon once more. Although I'm not sure how the gifts are going through the wall here, but I probably shouldn't think about it too much. The stream chat decided on the name Fuzzlock, which sounded pretty cool to me. And we were not done making new friends in this domain, as I caught a Gaburimon soon after. After making all these new friends, it was time to clean up this domain by beating the boss here, Woodmon, who asks a very important question, one that I always think about myself. But the battle itself isn't really much of a problem, as Woodmon doesn't have a tough squad on his side. On an unrelated note, Numemon does not get his signature party time attack in this mod. Instead, we have Horizontal Kick, which fans of Digimon World 1 would recognize as the first skill Numemon started with. Still, the lack of party time saddens me deeply. Anyway, our opponents do have the ability to cause the injury status effect. This is essentially poison from the base game, just renamed. If a Digimon is injured, they'll take 10 more damage from each attack. It might not seem like a big deal, but that damage can add up over time. In any case, this battle ends very quickly, and our friends have picked up another win. Back at HQ, the item-making machines have to be shut down, as some valuable parts have been stolen, causing an energy shortage. As usual, we're gonna have to fix everything ourselves. The thief who stole said parts is right here in the city, and they make it painfully obvious that they are the ones who did the deed. And then they very slowly make their escape as we watch. Fantastic! 2 new domains are now available, so it's time to go exploring again. On the second floor of the roost, I found myself in a pretty spacious room with a couple of potential new friends. I was not gonna miss this chance, and Tentomon was chosen by the stream chat to be our new friend. Very cool. After that, our fuzzy boy was able to get to level 11, which meant it was time for a Digivolution. Fuzzlock decided to digivolve into Deltamon, a very epic looking Digimon I would say. But our Digimon have now started to hit the level cap, which means I'll have to get them in some DNA Digivolutions really soon. Next up is the boss of Kodak Cavern, Dremojimon, who walks all the way around these blocks to get to us, which I thought was kinda funny. We never see anything like that in the base game. Dremojimon brings a half-decent lineup to the battle. Icemon can use Solid State, which is a defense buff, but such moves don't really matter all that much if the battle doesn't last too long. Our party tears up Dremojimon and his friends relatively quickly, and the fight ends without too much of a fuss. After the battle, we pick up the Gamma Shield. Not that Dremojimon had any use for it anymore, what with it being no longer alive. But now, I had to look into DNA Digivolution, as my party was bound to fall behind if I ignored it for too long. For the very first DNA of the run, I decided to combine our first partner, Ugly Sonic, with Fuzzlock the Deltamon. Together, they gave the gift of life to a Black Agumon, one of the new Digimon introduced in this mod. Very nice. While I did lose a couple of heavy hitters from my party, I still had some other friends I could rely on, who now had their time to shine. Of course, I had to do some grinding first to get everyone leveled up. It was time for some more Digivolutions. I Am Black ended up becoming Dark Tyrannomon, which kinda makes sense, I guess. While the nickname kinda still worked, I figured a tiny adjustment would fit better. Princess Bugs digivolves into Yanmamon. Not really exciting, but okay. And finally, Shork, the Gaburimon, becomes Nanimon. It just wouldn't be Digimon World 2 without Midlife Crisis Man, huh? Back at the registry roost, I ran into our old friend Tapermon once more. I didn't have enough gifts to get the full heart, so once again, the befriending wasn't guaranteed to happen. But with the power of GG Gaming on our side, Tapermon simply could not resist. Finally, a Taper friend in Digimon World 2. Unfortunately, it wasn't gonna stick around in our party for too long, as I decided to trade it off at the Digimon Center. I mean, hey, you only trade your very best friends, right? Or was it that you only trade with your best friends? I forgot. In any case, say hello to our first traded friend, Seakomon. It does come with a nice assist in anti-mix-up. This move can cure confusion, which might come in handy in the future. Tapermon is in a better place now. Probably. I'll never forget about him. As for the nickname for Seakomon, the stream chat decided to name it Pearl Jam. Sounds like a bootleg knockoff of Space Jam, doesn't it? Anyway, on the 5th floor of the roost, I came across a trapped Solarmon who even had an Agumon with it. Unfortunately, I only had 2 toy cars with me. I thought maybe if I could get a small heart, there would at least be a chance, but Solarmon had absolutely no intention to be my friend. Well then, I guess it will be trapped here forever. I felt bad about leaving it there, so I decided to be kind and help it escape, only for it to try and attack me. First, Solarmon took my toy cars, then it decided to be a jerk when I tried to help it. In the end, beating it up was something I had to do. Eventually, we run into Airdramon, the boss of this place. It may talk like a tough guy, but the squad it brings to the fight isn't that tough at all. Gururumon, or knockoff Gururumon as some people call it, has Darkness Ray, which turns the attacks of their group into darkness type attacks. That sounds useful in theory, as we are fighting on a dark type floor, which enhances any dark type attacks. But it doesn't really make a difference in this matchup, as the damage they're dealing out is simply too low to matter. And also, they proceed to lose the darkness power almost immediately. So that was kinda pointless. Pretty much as pointless as this Eardramon's existence, am I right? Our opponents here do give it their best shot, but it doesn't really matter, as their entire team slowly gets either pooped on or farted on by N and Shork. It must have been especially disturbing to be pooped on by balding midlife crisis man. Or do you all think a Numimon's poop attack is worse? Let me know in the comments. In any case, the battle ends with Eardramon's crew buried in a pile of poop. Rest in feces. Our Pearl Jam digivolves into a Shellmon. I'm not the biggest fan of Shellmon, but it's not like it'll be sticking around for too long. Our old friend Angemon turns out to be a snitch, as he tells us that Kim, the part thief, is at Client Coast, so I suppose that is where we need to be. On my way to confront Kim, I picked up another friend. I want as many friends as I can get my sweaty hands on. I haven't really talked about it much yet, but this mod has made a lot of changes to the domain design of World 2. Some of the rooms tend to be massive, with many wild enemies hanging around. While the domains in this mod can get a bit crazy later on, there are certain places, like this one, that I did enjoy exploring. On the 7th floor, we finally find Kim, who runs away as soon as we bring up the missing parts. You can run, Kim, but you can't run forever. But before we can bring Kim to justice, we first have to take care of Seadramon. This is another very forgettable boss fight. Here's a fun fact though. Apparently, darkness type attacks are super effective, sort of, against water type Digimon. In this game, anyway. In all honesty, I've always kept the Pokemon type chart in mind when it comes to stuff like this. It's kinda ingrained in the back of my head, but things don't work that way around here. Like, dark being effective against water? What's up with that? People in the stream chat were kind enough to remind me about the type advantages when they came up, which was very nice of them. Anyway, Triplex Forces is a dark type party-wide attack, and Seadramon takes more damage than the freaking Ice Gaburimon, which is something. That's a really weak Seadramon. N ends it with a nice horizontal kick to the Ice Gaburimon's face. Onwards, friends! After destroying Seadramon, we quickly confront Kim once again. The thief ain't running away this time. Kimmy brings a full team of champions to the battle, including a Kogamon, who looks very spiffy in purple. Kogamon is one of the lost Digimon of World 2. This mod has brought it back from the shadows and set it free. Not that it does anything much here. In fact, Kogamon takes a hefty amount of damage with every attack that hits it, and Kogamon's attack barely scratches our tanky friends. Soon, Pearl Jam the Shellmon puts a bit too much pressure on it, and Kogamon stops moving altogether. It's okay, buddy. Follow your ninja way into the afterlife. The other two aren't anything to write home about either. Our N ends it, once again, with an ultra-strong horizontal kick, which sends Garomon to the Shadow Realm. GG Gaming has led the way to victory once more. Afterwards, Kim gives us the coordinates to the device dome, where she will be happy to give us the parts back. I think we should still throw her into jail, but the authorities here don't do anything. Another criminal walks free. Now that we have access to the device dome, we can buy gifts for vaccine and data type Digimon, so making new friends will be a bit easier. In addition, we can now DNA Digivolve using vaccine type Digimon as well, which wasn't possible before, so that's nice. Back at HQ, Scumbag Skull appreciates all the work we've done and gives us 2000 bits as a reward, which would be enough to buy some Pepsi and a bag of chips, I guess. After that, he wants us to participate in the tournaments to raise our rank. But before that, I decided to check out the secret blocked off area in the PCI Preserve. Unfortunately, I didn't bring enough gifts, because there are some very cool Digimon around here. Oh well, maybe I'll come back and explore this place later. Time for a new DNA Digivolution, and this one gets me the fan favorite Weemon. I've never trained the Weemon line, which includes Flamedramon and Raydramon in Digimon World 2, so that's something I'm looking forward to doing in this run if I can. And the nickname, well, Weemon is totally awesome, isn't it? And then I combined Shork, the aging bald man, with one of my Airdramon to form Demidevimon. Here's hoping it turns into something good later. I did have another Airdramon that wasn't doing anything anymore, so I DNA'd that with Deltamon to form Furry V-Boy, also known as Vmon. Anyway, after some grinding, Shorky here digivolves into Wizardmon, which is... but okay. Now, Totally Awesome wanted to digivolve into Vidramon, which makes sense, but I didn't want that. Fortunately, I had acquired a couple of DNA up chips by this point, and I wanted to see if increasing the DP of Vmon would make a difference. And, well... for the very first time ever, I've got myself a Flamedramon, the Fire of Courage. Now if that ain't totally awesome, I don't know what is. I ended up DNAing N and Pearl Jam together, but we got N again with a higher level cap, so that's wonderful. But more importantly, we had to check out Flamedramon's special attack, and it just so happened that our old friend Tapermon was the one to take it to the face. I'm sure he's okay though, he's seen a lot worse. The early game tournaments are really not worth talking about, as they are very easy to beat. At this stage, all we really have to do is conserve MP and beat the snot out of some weak rookies and maybe a few struggling champions. Not a problem even in the slightest. After that, Scumbag Skull tells us that the Blood Knights, led by the old legendary tamer Crimson, have returned. As usual, we gotta go and take care of business by defeating the Blood Knights once and for all. Plenty of new domains await, so let's get going. Along the way, I do get the chance to befriend a Bakemon, and I wasn't about to let this ghost get away. And yes, the nickname is very appropriate, I know. Soon after, I befriended a Guardramon too. I figured Mr. Grinder here will come in handy someday. On the boss floor of Protocol Pit, I found a group which had an old friend of ours, Ugly Sonic. I wanted to bring it along with me, so I gave the group a bunch of my expensive skis as gifts. But wouldn't you know it, they didn't want to be friends with me. Dang it, I guess they only wanted the skis and not me. The domain maps are getting pretty long now, unnecessarily so I would say. Anyway, we run into our very first Blood Knight, who immediately starts giving up their secrets. They are looking for a ship, but this Blood Knight won't get to see it, I am sure. They bring a somewhat capable looking team to the battle. In this mod, Kuwagamon's Scissor Arm, which is essentially a weaker version of the Duo Scissors Claw, has also been nerfed, like the Duo version. The major nerf is that the user takes more damage during the turn the move is used, as their defense is halved. That's a pretty big downside, I would say. But that's not all, it hits a random target as well. Not really a move we'll be able to rely on, even if we do get it ourselves. But Kuwagamon gets destroyed fairly quickly, to be honest, with N spitting in its face, and Totally Awesome burning it to a crisp. That bug ain't gonna scissor anyone ever again. Wait, no, that didn't come out right. Shorky Bad Blue does show off the usefulness of paralysis, which can cause our enemies to miss their attacks. When it comes to the hardest boss fights, paralysis can play a pivotal role in giving us the advantage. The battle isn't too tough though, and N brings it to an end by putting down Angemon. Shorky and N have hit the level cap, so we're gonna have to do something about that soon. But before we can relax and chill out with the boys in the schoolyard, we end up finding more trouble without looking too hard, as we run into Commander Damien of the Blood Knights. Time to kick some more Blood Knight butt. Damien brings an ultimate level Digimon to the battle in the form of Blue Meramon. There's also Raremon, which has to be handled with care, as it has a counterattack that can cause guaranteed confusion. Birdramon isn't much of a threat compared to the other two, but it can use Meteor Wing, which hits the entire party for half decent damage. Compared to the fights I've had so far, this one was the most challenging, I would say. Simply because the opposing Digimon here can hit for some respectable damage as they work together. Blue Meramon even has Fire Rocket, which I thought was kinda hot. Shorky Bad Blue came very close to an untimely demise, but was able to barely survive. I did have to rely on a couple of healing items during this fight, but once Blue Meramon went down, I was able to stabilize and go on to dominate. Birdramon didn't last too long, and Raremon wasn't really capable of doing much on his own. Commander Damien did bring a challenge to the table, but he simply wasn't good enough to win when faced with the incredible power of GG Gaming. He runs away after the battle, but I get the feeling that we haven't seen the last of this guy. Before I went after the next Blood Knight, I was able to get an Otamamon to be my friend. But this friendship wasn't meant to be a long-term one. as I immediately traded the trade bait Otamamon for a Leomon. I'd say that's a pretty fair trade. Leomon comes with a couple of skills, although nothing too crazy. But hey, it's better than Otamamon, right? Jokin is the Beast King's fist counter, in case you're wondering. And don't worry, I didn't forget about the nickname. Making my way through the Risk River, I thought maybe a couple of skis would be able to entice this Woodmon to join me, and I was correct. As things get harder, it might be a good idea to have some hard individuals on our side too. Old furry V-Boy is finally ready to digivolve into V-Dramon. I'm hoping I can find a way to get Flame Dramon again through V-Boy's help later. The Risk River domain has proved to be fertile ground for me when it comes to making friends. Fugamon, another one of the lost Digimon of World 2, wanted to come along with me, and who am I to say no? Ooga Fuga has a really nice counter too, which will prove to be useful later. It's Blood Knight bashing time again, and this one is weaker than Commander Damien, which kinda makes sense, I suppose. Damien is a commander, and this is a grunt? I'm not sure how the Blood Knight hierarchy works. But we do get to see another new Digimon exclusive to this mod, Black Garurumon. I do think it looks very dope. Our opponents here actually have a game plan of sorts, and a pretty strange one at that. They have assist moves, which make all of my attacks be water type, regardless of what the original type of the attack is. In addition, they make their own attacks become nature type. Why would they do all this? It's because the floor we are fighting on is nature type, which strengthens nature type attacks and weakens water type attacks. I'm sure you've caught on to what they're trying to do here. It is kinda cute, and if this Blood Knight had a stronger lineup, things could have gotten hairy. But besides Morishellmon, the other two are very fragile. Black Garurumon gets knocked out fairly quickly, and Zasumon doesn't really pose much of a threat. Fun fact, Zasumon is another lost Digimon which has been put back into the game through this mod. Too bad it's really weak. Morishellmon though is built like a truck, and my squad had to chip away at it slowly. But while it can take plenty of hits, it can't really dish out any significant punishment in return. Eventually, Morishellmon falls down, and Zasumon is taken care of soon after that. I will say that this was a boss fight that made me think for a moment. This Blood Knight had some serious potential. Too bad he's going to the Shadow Realm. Oh well, moving on. It was time for some more DNA Digivolutions. While N has been the backbone of my team for a while, a DNA involving him was kinda overdue. I couldn't find a way to get a Madoki Betamon, which would have gotten me my Numi friend back, but a Shadow Toy Agumon seemed okay too. Another new Digimon exclusive to this mod. N isn't gone after all, he is still around in spirit. And who knows, we might find him again someday. Hardwood and Mr. Grinder weren't doing anything important, so they decided to create Grinder Jr. Ooga Fuga and Shorky Bad Blue are gone too, but in their place, we have Ooga Booga. And a quick grinding session later, Shadow N digivolved into Deltamon. I can totally see the presence of a Numemon in there, can't you? And Ooga Booga decided to return to Monkey and digivolved into Apemon. The nickname fits, for sure. And Grinder Jr. wants to become the ultimate grinder, I guess, as it turned into Tankmon. That nose cannon can be used for some serious grinding, I bet. Anyway, the boss of TCP Terrace is a Unimon who doesn't want to waste time talking about stuff and just wants to get it over with, which is totally fine with me. Ooga Booga at the moment does have access to Fugamon's Evil Hurricane, which is a terrifying counter, especially at this stage of the game. If the counter goes off, it can injure every opposing Digimon, and that extra 10 damage adds up really quickly. Once Evil Hurricane had everyone injured, I went with double party-wide attacks from our monkey and totally awesome. Unimon and its crew had no idea what to do, except to feel pain. Easy. Moving on. Back at HQ, there is some discussion about the archive ship. We have to find it quickly, before the Blood Knights get their grubby hands on it. It seems Professor Piyote at the Device Dome may know something about it, so that's where we have to go. Just as it was in the base game, the good-for-nothing Piyote wants us to go out of our way and catch 3 Digimon. The Digimon required in this mod are different from the ones we needed to get in the base game, but they are just as random, so not exactly an improvement on the base game, I'd say. It would have been great if the mod got rid of this quest entirely, in my opinion. I don't think anyone has ever had fun with this quest. And as usual, after we get them all, it turns out Piotr doesn't actually know anything, but we still had to prove ourselves. Now, we'll have to prove ourselves to the person who does know where the archive ship is. Fantastic. But before we can figure all that out, we gotta go clean up some more domains. In Readme Ruins, I found a nice looking trio. I kinda thought about getting the Kowagamon, but with the nerf to Scissor Arm, I thought maybe befriending one of the other two was the better idea. In the end, Gabagool looked pretty cool. On the 9th floor, I found more potential friends. Although there wasn't a guarantee, a Tordamon came back from the dead just to be my friend. I had a really good feeling about this. I think Mr. Snappy Doo is gonna be around for a long time. But now, it's time to get back to business, as we find another Blood Knight who wants to get in our way. This one, though, brought the fan favorite Metal Greymon with him, which I found to be pretty intimidating, to be honest. But this Metal Greymon has a glaring weakness, as the only move that it can apparently use is Reverse Program, which is an interrupt that does not deal any damage. Sure, it lowers our Digimon's MP and attack power, but that's it. It doesn't even have Giga Blaster, Metal Greymon's main attack, so it's more like a knockoff Metal Greymon. Still, this fight isn't a complete cakewalk. Centaromon can paralyze my Digimon, which is a major annoyance. Shadow N spent the majority of the fight in a recurring state of paralysis. Although to be fair, I gotta take some responsibility for that, as I forgot about a move that I had, which could have healed the paralysis. But you know how it is. Sometimes, in the heat of battle, one can forget about stuff like that. Other than that though, the rest of the battle is rather straightforward. Metal Greymon eventually goes down, still using Reverse Program till the bitter end. And Cyclomon wasn't able to do much on his own. Not the easiest battle in the game so far, but it was pretty manageable once I figured out that Metal Greymon was all talk. And now, since Ooga Booga was able to get to level 21, it was time for our first ultimate level Digimon. And it turned out to be an old friend of the channel, one who had, in the past, poked many of our enemies to their demise. Yes, Monkey digivolved into Weirgarurumon. Jeff from the World 1 hardcore playthrough was back. I went out there to grind a few more levels, and I was suddenly reminded that no matter how well things might be going, tragedy can always be just around the corner. A momentary lack of attention was enough to cause something terrible to happen. Our old friend, Mr. Snappy Doo, who's been with us for such a long time, has unfortunately passed away. There was nothing we could do now, except to take it to the guard, who would provide our fallen friend with its final resting place. I could have used it in a DNA Digivolution, but I felt like that wasn't what Mr. Snappy Doo wanted. Rest now, old friend. We'll meet again someday. As heavy as my heart truly felt in this moment, we had to keep moving forward. The world needed saving after all. Now then, while going through the IDS Ice Cave, I ran into a Frigimon, who I decided to befriend. This was a very short-lived friendship though, as I traded Frigimon away for a Kiwimon. This wasn't a great trade, however, as Kiwimon comes with some terrible moves, at least in my opinion. And although I really liked my totally awesome Flamedramon, it was beginning to fall behind, so I DNA Digivolved it with Lord of D to get a Demi-Devimon. Our new buddy Totally D will be able to get to the ultimate level, so that's good. But the ever-reliable Shadow N did help me get a Vmon back, which would be able to digivolve into Flamedramon, and eventually the ultimate level Raidramon as well. N was trying to make sure that we can forget about our sorrows and stay on our path. Well, sometimes grinding in RPGs is the only way to forget about all the negativity, right? After destroying some wild enemies, our Grinder Jr. digivolved into Gyromon, another throwback to the legendary Hardcore World 1 playthrough. I didn't think that Grinder Jr. seemed like an appropriate nickname for this tiny bundle of destruction. And Totally D digivolved into Devimon. Yes, very spooky. And old Kiwimon was able to digivolve into Lilymon. How cute! Much better than Kiwimon at least. Back in the Ice Cave, I saw a Numemon in the wild. I was kinda excited, but then I noticed that Angemon here would be the one I would run into first. And according to the Nuzlocke rules, that meant I wouldn't be able to catch the Numemon I was already throwing gifts at. Life can be pretty sad, huh? Well, eventually, we get to meet the boss of this place. Or so I thought. In what is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a Digimon game. The Blood Knight here gets destroyed by a Mammothmon. We all love to see those Blood Knights get what they deserve, and it's even better when I don't have to do it myself. But unfortunately, the Mammothmon sees us as an enemy as well, so we gotta take it out. In a different life, I would have really liked to just be friends with it though. Mammothmon brings a couple of other cool Digimon with it. Neither Frigimon or Hugomon gave me any chills though. But I didn't want to take Mammothmon lightly, so I went after it with some hot flaming attacks. It probably didn't expect to be blasted by such firepower and was frozen in place during the first round. I was able to just chill out during this fight, as our adversaries didn't have a snowball's chance in hell. Maybe Mammothmon spent too much energy while taking out the Blood Knight earlier. Oh well, back to the Ice Age with you, big guy. One more win for the good guys, and McFlamio just hit level 21, and you know what that means, right? It was time for our Flame Dramon to become Ray Dramon. Truly epic. If our enemies couldn't handle Flame Dramon, then I don't know what they're gonna do now. Well then, time for us to head into the desert. Those extra fast wild enemies are pretty much impossible to catch, at least with the gifts I have access to at the moment. I've never been a fan of them, to be honest. Why are they so much harder to catch when they aren't even that great or anything? But beating them up gets totally D to level 21, so it's time for one more Digivolution. And wouldn't you know it, one more old friend from the World 1 Vice playthrough has arrived to help us save the world again. McHope has returned to spank our foes once more. Considering we also have Gyromon and Virgarurumon, it's practically a reunion for the heroes of that run. Anyway, Dial-Up Desert was a pretty barren place when it came to picking up some new friends though. They are always too close for comfort. Moving on to the boss, we find yet another Blood Knight, and this one brings a horrible looking team to the fight. Like, really, what the heck is this? That Flymon looks absolutely disgusted and depressed. I mean, it's staring a bunch of scary looking ultimate level Digimon in the face after all. Draydramon hits like a freaking truck with its signature move, Blue Thunder. Poor Flymon and his friends were blown away by the constant, devastating attacks coming their way. The battle barely lasted a few minutes, as our friends cleaned things up very quickly. This Blood Knight really should have stayed home today. At the Device Dome, Kim has found a strange looking robot, and she, for whatever reason, needs a Raremon to keep it from blowing up or something. Why a Raremon? I don't know. In the base game it was a Tankmon, I think. That didn't make sense either. But thankfully, we already have Gabagool, a Raremon we caught earlier, so at least I didn't have to go and catch one right now. After showing it to her, she is able to make the robot function. And it says... Gaia. Huh, what an ominous name. I wonder if this will come up later. Next, Lucky Lewis, the shady looking character, who is definitely up to no good, tells us that Bertrand and Joy-Joy might be in trouble. Although I don't care much for Bertrand, we do gotta go save Joy-Joy. I guess I'll go take a look and see what's up. Lucky Lewis gives us a Blood Knight called Jimmy's ID. Nice name, huh? QoS Quarry is where we gotta head to next. While I couldn't make any new friends in the desert, I get pretty lucky in the quarry and befriend a Greymon, who I then proceed to give an awesome nickname to. Before continuing, Greymon reminded me that I never completely explored the PCI Preserve, so I went back and decided to do just that. It turns out that there weren't any special bosses, hidden domains, or secrets in here, which was pretty disappointing. But there was a strange Greymon tucked away in a corner on the final floor. What could be better than having one Greymon? Two Greymon, am I right? And this one did turn out to be kinda special after all, as it had Mega Heal, the first healing skill I've come across so far. Considering that I do have an item limit, healing skills like this are super valuable. Although it is worth keeping in mind that healing skills in general have been heavily nerfed in this mod, but I'll take whatever I can get. I think it was worth it to take this detour. McWeenie, our tiny friend, and Lilymon had both hit the level cap by this point. So after a quick DNA, I ended up with a Kogamon. I don't know if you are into Yu-Gi-Oh, but Kogamon here reminded me of the Ojamas from that game, so I decided to name this Kogamon appropriately. I also decided to rename Raidramon to Courage, as McFlameo didn't really make sense anymore, and Courage is one of my favorite characters of all time. Anyway, back to the quarry, things were mostly pretty uneventful. I just took the time to level up our new friends as I went through it. There were some interesting new Digimon that I would have liked to have on my team, but the floor layouts were not being kind to me. You can only fire gifts from certain positions on the map, and there wasn't enough space for me to do so, while also avoiding wild enemies in the process. Cause you know, if I run into one, then that's it for the floor. And then, I came upon something really peculiar. There were a couple of Birdramon here, who I could interact with from quite far away. And apparently, they were unable to get to me, while I could still hit them with my gifts, somehow. The laws of physics are powerless when it comes to making friends. But what about the Birdramon? Were they friends or were they lovers? It wasn't entirely clear. There was something between them though, a spark that words could not explain. Something that told me that they were meant to be together. But how strong was their bond? I wanted to test it, so I threw plenty of gifts at one of them to see if I could entice them away from their partner. And it seemed like I could. The chat wanted me to catch Monochromon out of the group, so that's what I did. Unfortunately, that meant that the other Birdramon was left all alone now. Oh well, for them, I guess it wasn't meant to be after all. A bit further in, we finally find Jimmy, the legendary novice Blood Knight. He's been having quite the bad time recently, and I had a feeling that things were about to get worse for him. McHope finally gets a chance to show what he can do, and Night Raid does some sweet damage. But really, we're facing some pretty sad looking Digimon here, so McHope had it easy. Vegemon has the prickly bang bang counter. While the name is incredible, the move itself isn't all that great. It hits for some damage and injures, but these Digimon don't have what it takes to really make use of the extra 10 damage. Our squad is simply too good to be bothered by weak Digimon like this. Jimmy has a long way to go before he can challenge us to a real fight. But that battle was simply the appetizer apparently, as Instructor Ken shows up to try and save the day for Jimmy. Both of them name drop the undersea base, where naughty stuff seems to be happening. But for the moment, we've got another boss fight to deal with. Sensei Ken at least brings an ultimate level Digimon in Meteormon, so that's good to see. Because I had no opportunity to heal after the last battle, I did have to rely on a couple of items during this one. But I've still made sure to stay within the max item limit I have for myself, so it's all good. Good old Clockmon is still doing the same thing it always did in the base game, by slowing down our Digimon's turns a bit. But it can't do any significant damage, so it's not much of a problem. Meteormon though is quite thick, and all we can do is chip away at him slowly. Stinger Surprise, I believe, lowers the accuracy of the Digimon it hits, causing them to miss more often. But besides Meteormon, who can take a bunch of hits, the other two Digimon can't hang around too long. The misses caused by Stinger Surprise do prolong the fight, but the end was inevitable. After we eventually take out Meteormon, the rest of Sensei Ken's Digimon are destroyed fairly easily. Definitely a step up from Jimmy, but not by a whole lot. Now, did you know that Myotismon and Raidramon can DNA Digivolve to create Flamedramon? I suppose this one is the fire of courage as well as hope. And let's not forget about our Ojama buddy. It digivolves into something that still looks like an Ojama, but a much scarier one. An Ojama straight from hell. Now, it is time to sneak into the undersea base and see what kind of pervy shenanigans are happening in there. And immediately, we make a new friend. Geckomon might be a bit tough to look at, but that's okay. Most of our friends tend to be that way. This is a somewhat short domain, and we soon meet Mega Seadramon. At first, I thought, whoa, this could be a tough fight. But then, it turned out that it was a 3 versus 1 fight. The base game did have a couple of battles like this one, and they were never any trouble at all. The game had no idea how to balance a fight like this. And that hasn't really changed here in this mod, as Mega Seadramon is incapable of taking on 3 ultimate level Digimon by itself. Our gang kicked the monkey out of the sea serpent, and gave it a thorough beating for getting in the way. But like what happened before, we've got more bad guys to deal with, as Lieutenant Volt is up next. But trust me when I say that you are all about to see something completely insane. Something you would, usually, only have a 1 in 666 chance of seeing on the 99th floor of Terra Domain. That's right. Apparently, Lieutenant Volt was the chosen one who was able to find the legendary mythical beast known as Chimeramon. Okay, so here's the thing. This mod brought back Chimeramon into the game as just another Digimon, essentially. There is nothing amazing about it, and it can, later on, even be found in the wild. Personally, I found that to be quite disappointing. There was this entire real-life mystery around this Digimon when it came to Digimon World 2 in the West, and to not use it at all seems wrong to me. Some people might be okay with it, and I do understand that, but for me, this was a major letdown. Anyway, Chimeramon has access to Variable Wave, which can make a Digimon aggressive. An aggressive Digimon can cause injury on contact, which is pretty nifty. But we gotta contend with Datamon too, who can use Neutralize to heal injuries on their side. Of course, Chimeramon does have the infamous Poison Wing, renamed to Heat Viper here. But it's not all that much of a problem for me, as our Ojama boy can take away a lot of the damage through reverse programming. The monkey is there and has a half-decent party-wide move, but we have no reason to worry about the monkey all that much, especially because it guaranteed Jeff's evil hurricane every turn, ensuring that Chimeramon and friends get injured again and again, without fail. That's kinda important, because while Datamon does have access to Plug Bomb, it'll often end up using Neutralize if it had any injured party members. Whenever it does that, it's sort of like it's wasting a turn, which is obviously very nice for me. That turns it into a 2 versus 3 fight for the most part, with Ojama Hihi nullifying the threat of Chimeramon, and the monkey can only do so much on its own. With party-wide attacks coming in every turn from our friends, Chimeramon and his goons can only take those for so long. But as for the finishing touch, that honor went to Jeff, who brought an end to this battle in the most fitting way possible. A poop Hadouken filled with the power of GG Gaming. Chimeramon should now return to where it belongs, in our memories. Afterwards, Volt sets off the self-destruct mechanism of the undersea base, for some reason, so we gotta make a swift exit. But I've got a feeling that we haven't seen the last of this guy. Back home, Lucky Lewis informs us that Bertrand and Joy Joy somehow found their way home all by themselves. Dang it, I was hoping Bertrand would join the Blood Knights or get eaten by a Garurumon or something. That would have been cool. Joy Joy tells us about Ben Oldman's location, where we gotta head to right away. But first, it's time for some new DNAs. The 2 Greymon became an Agumon, who went on to digivolve into the Chonky Chungus himself, Tyrannomon. Boy, I have some terrible memories of Tyrannomon from my World 1 playthrough. I hope history doesn't repeat itself here. Also, remember that Geckomon I caught? It digivolved into Shogun Geckomon. And while trying to figure out a suitable partner for it, I ended up finding an old friend of ours again. We really can't stay away from N for too long, can we? N's got a pretty confusing moveset now, although it's too bad it won't do us any good when it comes to boss fights. And we got our courage back too! Sweet! Heading to the archive port, we find Ben Oldman, who does not think very highly of us. In order to make him believe that we are the protagonist of this game, we gotta beat him up in a Digimon battle, obviously. After getting through his domain, it's time for a battle. Time to put this old man in his place. After what we had to deal with in the last boss fight, this battle isn't nearly as challenging. I was kinda expecting a bit more from the former leader of the Blue Falcons, but I suppose he's been retired for a while, and these are the only friends he's got left. Huh, that sounds kinda sad. Oh well, we'll have to do what we always do, and annihilate those who stand against us in the name of GG Gaming. Yanmamon can use Stun Ray, which can help cause paralysis. That can be annoying as always. Superstarmon has a half-decent party-wide attack, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. Blossommon is there too? Yeah. Ojama Hihi does a whole lot of damage, even to ultimate level Digimon. I've always believed in the raw strength of Ojamas. With Courage following up with Nitrate, this deadly duo puts out a ton of spread damage every turn. And we also have our big Chungus healer as well, to keep the party healthy. Ben Oldman really should have stayed at home, cause we show him what the new generation is capable of. The future is indeed now, old man. Your time is over, and my time is now. After humbling Ben Oldman, I realized that there was a secret passageway in this domain too. After running around for a bit, I found a wild Mamemon, which is the first ultimate level Digimon that I found in the wild. But unfortunately, while I did have a lot of toy tanks with me, I was only able to get a small heart. When it comes to such high level wild enemies, the chance of befriending them with a small heart is practically negligible. But honestly, who needs math when we can rely on the awesome might of GG Gaming instead? Yes, I now had my very own Mamemon. I am not sure what I'm gonna do with it. I'll figure that out later. In more good news, our Chunkosaurus digivolves into Master Tyrannomon. Oh yeah, Master Chungus is in the house now. Back at Archive Port, Ben Oldman tells us that the place itself is the archive ship, but it ain't ready to fly yet. We found a bunch of parts for it already, but we need more. But do you all remember that Monochromon I caught a while back? Well, as luck would have it, they were offering a nice trade for it at the Digimon Center. I know things can be hard sometimes, Monochromon, but the hardest decisions often require the hardest of wills. Dragomon looks horrifying, but it brings with it Giga Heal. Now that's what I'm talking about. I'll work on leveling it up later. Coastal Depot is up next, and the domain design is really beginning to feel like it was designed by a true pervert, as there can be dead ends around every darn corner, for no good reason at all. As we struggle to make progress through this horrid domain, we run into our old nemesis/friend, Commander Damien. He's back for a grudge match. Damien still has the blue Miramon, but now he has added a Daramon to the group too. And yeah, there was a red Vegemon in there too, for what I thought was moral support. But the dang thing had buffalo breath, and it immediately confused our Ojama. Things could have gotten hairy, but I had a simple solution. An interrupt can bypass confusion, and our Ojama Hihi did have a really good interrupt in reverse program, which made Blue Miramon's party-wide attack practically useless. Yes, I once again forgot about the confusion healing assist I had. In my defense, you tend to forget things sometimes when you've been streaming for a while. The rest of the battle was rather simple, with the squad beating the heck out of Blue Miramon and Daramon, while leaving Red Vegemon alone till everyone else was unconscious. And then, it only took one good turn to put it out of its misery too. Sorry Damien, someday, maybe, but not today. Back at HQ, Skull and Ben tell us that we have to head to Titan Bunker, where Crimson himself is likely hiding. The bunker has some interesting domain design as well, but this sort of stuff I don't mind as much. And who do we find as we venture into the depths of Titan Bunker? Why, it's Commander Damien once again. Boy, he doesn't get tired of getting his butt whipped. Well, alright then. At least he took the time to level up that red Vegemon, which is now a Garbagemon. While Garbagemon also takes a stupid amount of damage when it gets hit, Damien had enough functioning brain cells to not get rid of Buffalo Breath. Now, Courage ended up confused, and that was a problem, because Courage was the one who had anti-mix-up, which could cure confusion. But you can't use an assist while you're confused, so yeah. I just had to hang in there. And also, I kinda ran into Damien a bit unexpectedly. I was leveling up N and didn't expect to run into a boss fight, which is why my main attacker, Ojama Hihi, isn't here. So that definitely made things worse. Basically, the confusion turned it into a sort of 2 versus 4 situation, with Courage turning on his teammates. I had to rely on some item usage here, just to stay alive. The rest of the team had to grit their teeth and believe in the power of GG Gaming to fight on. Things could have gone a whole lot worse, but thankfully, the team was able to calm things down after Courage shook off the confusion. Maybe the mere presence of N was able to help Courage get back to his senses. After that, the squad was able to take back control of the battle. Nothing has really changed much for Damien's team since the last fight, but that makes sense cause we did beat him up like 5 minutes ago. On a side note, Master Chungus now has Master Fire, which becomes stronger as the fight goes on, dishing out ever-increasing damage. They don't call him the Master for nothing, you know. Soon, Damien's team, just like his reputation, is burned to a crisp. The good guys march on. Damien runs off again, but our mission isn't finished yet. On the 14th floor of the bunker, we finally come face to face with Crimson himself. Damien and Volt have been singing our praises, it seems, cause Crimson wants us to join the Blood Knights. But Editor Man is not about that life, so enough talk, Crimson, let's dance. And oh boy, Crimson is coming in kinda heavy as he's packing a dang Phoenixmon, along with a Raidramon as well. Oh, and a Woodmon. Okay. Phoenixmon in this mod has Starlight Explosion as its main attack. A very cool name, but a pretty basic move. Although it does hit hard, it's a single target move, which we can easily live with. Raidramon does have a party-wide attack in Vulcan's Hammer, which is usually Zudomon's move, I believe, but it's not a big deal after our Ojama takes a bite out of it. Woodmon may as well not be there, to be honest. He's like the tiny bro tagging along with the big boys. The main issue for Crimson's team is that they don't have any really good moves to work with. Both Phoenixmon and Raidramon can do decent damage, but it's just not enough. If they had a better moveset, things could have been different, but as they are now, our team is more than able to manage them. There was a whole lot of hype around Crimson, but for me, the battle felt kinda meh at the end of the day. Simply a skill issue on Crimson's part. Get good, buddy. But wouldn't you know it, we still aren't done with this domain, as Volt is here to help Crimson make an escape. And obviously, Volt wants a rematch. Volt has made a couple of big changes to his team, although that naughty Chimeramon is still there. Completely understandable. If I had one, I would hold it close and never let go. While Chimeramon is still the same as it was before, that doesn't make it any less of a threat. It can easily injure my entire party after it becomes aggressive, and I have to be extra careful as the other two Digimon can deal some damage too. Monzaimon takes the role that Datamon had previously, as it can take care of any injuries on their side. Again though, whenever it uses Neutralize, it's not doing damage that turn, and I'm okay with that. It also has access to the Pretty Attack, which can cause Motivation Down, along with dealing a nice chunk of damage. Motivation Down, for those who don't know, takes away access to certain moves. But because my Digimon have gone through so many DNA Digivolutions, they all have a somewhat varied moveset, allowing them to maneuver around their lack of motivation. Monzaimon has another trick for us in Lovely Attack. It reduces the attack and defense of all virus-type Digimon. Fortunately, I only had one, in the form of Ojama Hihi on my side. If I had brought an entire virus-type lineup here, then this could have really been a problem. Vermilimon has Horn Buster, which is an interrupt that lowers the power of my moves. It's annoying, but I wasn't really bothered by it. This battle takes a while, as I have to slow down and recover my health and MP after every few turns. After Chimeramon went down, things became quite a bit easier. And after a long and arduous battle, we finally beat Lieutenant Volt for the second time. A difficult fight, for sure. Shockingly though, we are still not done, as Megasedramon is back to help Volt escape, and to keep us company while he gets out of here. Megasedramon learned the importance of having a full party after our last battle apparently. But compared to Crimson and Volt, this is an easier battle to deal with overall. But our opponents do have some sneaky moves though. Octomon has Pulse Blast, which lowers the attack of one Digimon. And Gesomon is annoying as well, cause it has Scissor Arm, which reduces defense. What a nasty combo. In hindsight, I probably should have taken down the two champions first, as Megasedramon really wasn't much of a threat. But in the moment, I wasn't entirely sure if it was packing any secret moves or something like that, so I put all of my Digimon's attention on it. I am glad that the champions here couldn't do any real damage, otherwise they could have become a real problem. Once Megasedramon went down though, they were not far behind. The Titan Bunker Marathon was finally over. Crimson may have escaped, but our friends came out of this ordeal alive, and that's the most important thing. Back home, it was time for N to take on a different form. It's still N, just in a Waidemon costume, I think. We got the Navidusk from Crimson, so all that was left to do was to get the ship key, which a friendly neighborhood Agumon happened to have lying around. With the final parts in hand, it was time to return to where it all began, once more. File Island. Wait, Native Forest in Digimon World 2? Venom Myotismon? What the heck is going on? A lot has changed on File Island it seems, and we're gonna have to be on top of our game to survive and save everyone. But that is gonna have to wait. This video has already gotten way too long as it is. Our journey will continue in part 2, and I hope you'll be there to see it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you would like to support the channel, you can do so on my Patreon, where I've got exclusive content and playthroughs. And now, here's a quick shout out to my wonderful patrons. Thank you Hero Emblem, Blake CN1, Vanilla, Yog, Sevastimidis, Carl Dean, Jonathan Harley, Andre Nusantara, Dark Soul 1243, and our newest member, Cerberus Voidheart, for your continued support. And here's a special shout out to McDivil, Cool Name, and Pascal, a couple of awesome friends of the channel. The power of your friendship keeps nerdhood safe and sound. Thank you sincerely, my friends. And now, for an ultra strong shout out to the incredible people who keep the digital world safe from every villain out there. A huge thank you to the amazing duo of Shamine and Derpin Goose for your support. You are both the best, like no one ever was. We may have lost a dear friend along the way, but we've made it quite far. But will we make it to the end though? We'll find out next time.